Okay, welcome everyone. I am thrilled to be here again for our monthly organizational coaching special interest group. We're gonna have a great session today. We're really gonna we're at the point now we're really gonna dive in. We're gonna do a number of very practical things about how really using each other to support around how we open up a door to get into an organization. So you may have been working in organizations for a while. I know some of you are new. We're going to be really trying to focus on the next organization that we're opening up the door. So I hope you are super excited. I always like to start out by introducing myself for those that I haven't met before, and there might be a few people today. I'm Jen Wilson. I'm a coach, and I live here in Los Angeles now. I am excited to be here. This is like my gift and my give back. I am a recovering employee leader in an organization, and when I pivoted fully into coaching, I really made it my mission not only to support leaders to never go through what I went through, or teams never to go through anything I went through, and I coach the coaches that work in organizations. And so I'm excited to be here. I'm also going to introduce Stacy, who is here with me. She is a rock star and works with me. And if you have any tech questions, or if you have any specific details, you're welcome to just ping her. Stacy can answer those for us. She's going to drop a lot of the links in the chats and the questions and everything. So she's your go-to person. All right. Who's excited? I need to see some excitement. You can do the wave. I see some hands. I see the waving. All right, Lori, thank you. This is what we need. It's Friday. It's basically the summer. I'm in the valley and it's a nice weather outside. So here we go. So today, as I mentioned, our focus is opening doors. And how do we get into an organization? And whether you're sitting here working in corporate spheres, whether you are working in nonprofit, government, in some ways, this is kind of agnostic. We're really going to be talking about how we open a door to get in. So before we kind of jump in, what's one word or phrase that describes how you feel when you think about breaking in to an organization as a coach? And you can drop it in the chat, or you can come off mute and share. So a word or a phrase. Gentle. Thanks, Barry. Intentional. Yeah, being really intentional. Authentic. Freddie, thank you. Valued. Helpful. With ease, not force. These are great. Wanting to make a difference. Sherry, yeah, really being of service. Excited. Yeah. So many of these are being states, right? When we're going to open, when we go to and I'm sure many of us have systems in place. We have, trackers that we track. We have all of that. But what I'm seeing here is a lot of the intentionality of how we're showing up, right? Would anyone like to come off mute and give a little more color to their word? Share a little more.
Yeah, Barry. So color is a great thing. So I'll just background in corporate America, often there's a lot of force the outcome. Do this, push there, got to get it done. Blah, 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 blah. And there's sometimes a missing softness, or caring
Mm,
or being. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of walking in and feeling that. And so it's like being true to myself, being true to ourselves. See a great lot of great words, optimism, excited. I put ease, not forceful, helpful. And just to
mhm.
remember that even if you walk into that, not all cultures are like this, but we'll know more after tribal leadership. Talking about this in a couple months. But it's like just stick to not your guns, but stick to who you are, and not fall into the potential trap of you got to be like them. That's my two
Mhm.
cents worth is, and I'm not sticking to it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll hold all these words here. And before we really dive into thinking practically around tools and strategy, I want to really give us an opportunity to ground ourselves in some real experiences right now. What's going to happen is Stacy's going to put you into a breakout right away. You're going to be in groups of three. We may have a group of four as well. And in this first breakout, you're going to do a couple of things with your partners. You're gonna introduce yourself. You are going to share the kinds of organizations that you work with or that you're planning to work with, right? So what's the ideal? Then I want you to choose one specific organization that you're going to keep in mind throughout our time today, right? So it might be one that you are the best in series, an organization you really want to work with. I always see it's the organization that my heart really wants to serve. That's how I think about it a lot, right? And then you want to share with your group why that organization, what's interesting, what's challenging, and why are you wanting to be in the space with them. So Stacy dropped the four things in the chat here. So introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, what type of organization you've worked with or you're planning to work with. Choose one organization you want to kind of bring into the room that you want to focus on today. And then why that organization, what's interesting or challenging about them and about reaching them. So everybody will get a chance. This is going to be a 12-minute breakout. So you have about 3 minutes each, roughly, right? And you might have a little bit of padded time there, but really make sure that you're watching your time so everybody gets an opportunity to go within about a 3 minute. And we're going to have some chances to break out back and forth a bunch of times. So this won't be the only time that you're in a breakout. Okay, everybody good? All right, Stacy, let's go ahead and oh, look at that. Do you guys see my stuff behind me? That is cool. All right. Let's go ahead and open the breakout, Stacy. Welcome back. Welcome, welcome. Let's see, do we have everyone? There we go. All right. So what would anyone like to share anything about the organization they chose, one insider challenge that came up? Anyone brave enough to share? Don't be shy.
I think the one thing that I shared that I found, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I also coached inside organization as an internal coach too before that, is when you know somebody that's your advocate, that you've either coached or they understand your expertise and they trust you.
Yeah.
That's what I find. Either they'll call you to come in or you're just staying in touch and you're helping them out. So
Mhm.
I talked a little bit about reciprocity. There's a well-established startup right now that their director of org development has approached me. And she says, I want to bring you in for the senior leaders. And they're a little hesitant. They're not sure what this is all about, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, they want me to give this presentation. So I've been helping her develop that presentation because she was going to bring me in to help her fly me to North Carolina. And I couldn't do it because I had another obligation. So I said, let me just help you do this.
Mhm.
And so it's all about the reciprocity. I'll help you, but she's working like crazy to bring me in because as I'm helping her, she goes, oh my God, we just need you. We need you in this organization, your knowledge, your background. And that's what I've found that most of my work has come from. I also mentioned that I've sent work to many coaches that I really trusted. If I couldn't take on the project or whatever, I sent it to other coaches. And then I found that I'm top of mind when other coaches have exciting things that they're working on, and they'll reach out to me. And that's where my work has come from. And that's how I've found really exciting projects over the years. I have never gone in. I have been actually contacted on LinkedIn by a couple that which is interesting, but some of the best organizations I've worked in have been because it's just somebody I already know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never approached an organization, never have had to
Mm,
for work.
wonderful. Wow. And really, what you're threading out are some of the things we're really going to be thinking about today around relationships, who has the influence, those kinds of things. Excuse me a moment. Now, true transparency, I'm on the tail end of being very sick, so I apologize for that. Now, does everyone have a organization that they're thinking about? Can you either show me yes, thumbs up, thumbs down? Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So we want to hold that organization in our mind because we're going to be working through some exercises here particular to that one organization. So I want to talk a little bit about influence, and Sue really opened the door for us to start to dive into this around, you know, a lot of times we know that there are that titles might matter, but they never really tell the whole story, right? And for those of us who even worked, I always told people, I was a very senior person at an organization for a long time. I had a huge span of influence, but the person who had the most influence was sitting at our front desk, right? Her name was Victoria. She had the most influence. She had the most influence because she could be a gatekeeper when we needed her to be a gatekeeper. She made sure everything ran. Victoria had the most influence. And let me tell you, it was important to maintain a strong relationship there. So she was the most important, had one of the most important roles that are there. So this really speaks to that there's formal and there's informal influence in an organization, right? That not all power is tied to hierarchy. And oftentimes, organizations, they run on these informal networks. And Sue was mentioning this and some of my experiences that I'll come into an organization coaching in one area. I've one organization, I've been doing different work for them now for almost 2 years, and it's looked different in lots of different ways because all of a sudden someone I worked with will refer me somewhere else. There's a lot of informal formal spaces that are there. There's and many of us know this through experiences, and for some of us we might starting to be thinking a little bit about, okay, there are the formal structures, but what are some of the informal structures at the particular organization that we're trying to open the door to? There's a couple of different players that are always in organizations, right? I always say there's the first one, that are the gatekeepers. They're the people who actually control the access to the decision maker, right? They're like the Victoria in my old company. They are the executive assistant. Who are other gatekeepers that you come across in organizations or that you know from your own experience?
HR.
HR, right? You got it. Procurement. Who else? Who else
Mhm.
is there, right? These are our gatekeepers, right? And a certain version of me, let's see, training. Yep. There was Sue, yeah.
Well, you said procurement, which is the same thing as finance, but
Yeah.
sometimes I was contacted by somebody who's chief financial officer wanting to come up with, they were trying to do budget cuts on professional development, but thought, well, maybe offering coaching could be a really cool thing to
Oh,
offer.
yeah.
I was surprised by that, but
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that I have to remind myself that gatekeepers, they're not there to try to stop me. Their job is to protect some of the key things of the organization, protect time, protect budget, and protect code protocol. And that it's really important as we're moving into organizations, or maybe we've come in informally in other ways, that we see these roles and that we build trust there, right? And so I was thinking a little bit about some of the words that were dropped in the chat when we started. And I'm thinking a lot about intentionality. I'm thinking a lot about, for me, a lot of my work has to align with the spirit of service. That's a core belief of mine. And so building that trust with gatekeepers, that's kind of part of that. There's that next role, and we've started to talk about some of them. They're like, I call them like our champions. They are advocates. They're the ones who really believe in the work that you're bringing in. And they're the ones who are willing to speak up, right? There's an organization that I have done some coaching work with, and it was one of the one of the much more junior staff members that brought me in, right? They were an advocate. They had attended something I went to and they were just like, this is amazing. And they brought me into the organization to coach one person. And then that evolved into something else. So they are often our former clients. They are often mid-level leaders. They're ones who have benefited from working with you, or they just get you. Does anyone have an experience with a champion? I know Sue shared about one, I've shared one. Who else? Who was an unlikely champion, or who was a champion of your work or an advocate for you?
I once got a client for, I was attending a networking event and I helped someone with their phone, giving them some advice on their smartphone. And we developed a relationship after that. And she became one of my biggest advocates and helped me get into a very large client.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's really interesting where
You
where
never
our
know.
advocates come from, right?
Mhm.
Right. There's always this other group, and I've never really thought of a better name for them other than they're kind of like the balkers. They're the ones who they're going to resist when that your presence and the work that you're bringing. Usually this comes down to my experience has been like kind of turf wars or protection or skepticism. And we all know often underneath that, it's just a fear of change, right? And so there's a version that I always look at myself, like I always like to look back at the fellow OD professionals, yeah, that are kind of like, we've already done this, right? We've already got this. We've done this. We've tried everything. And it's really important that we look at them not as villains. Usually it can come back to a couple things. One is that maybe they had a bad coaching experience, or maybe they're going to lose some sphere of influence, right? There's not really a full understanding. And so to be able to identify who might be in that role, who might be showing up in that way, and being really sensitive to that. Because, like I was saying, often I think there's some fears, right? And we know this as coaches, right? We know when our clients are resisting something, more often than not, there's something else going on, right? Who might have an experience with this? Or, yeah, has anyone got an experience with this? Somebody kind of that might have been afraid of something that you've run into at an organization.
Jen, I don't know if it's so much that they were afraid of it, but one of the sessions that I got into, there was somebody who had already done some sessions either with a previous employer or something like that. And so she wanted to take over the session, always had a comment about what we were talking about or how I was facilitating the session. And it became a little bit of a distraction that she wanted to I was take over, but she wanted to let the rest of the group know that she had already done something very similar.
Yeah. 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 It's the kind of like, of we've already done this. I
Yeah.
already know. Yeah. Barry.
You were saying about well, I called it the naysayers, the people that can't say yes. And you're also talking about the champions. I've heard another term. I like champion even better. The begins with an S, sponsor.
Mm,
But it kind of reminds me of trying to find a job. It's like you need somebody you don't need, but it helps to have somebody inside that you have a relationship, which actually could kind of be a guide and work you through some of it. Not that they're going to have all the answers, but you're not blind. And towards that, I mentioned the term economic buyer. People, not everybody may know what it means. Just the definition is the person that can sign the check. So you
mm,
have plenty of people that can't sign the check, and a lot of those people are either naysayers or they want it, but they can't, they don't have the authority to get it there. So
mhm,
somehow, besides selling or offering the benefits, you got to get to somebody that could actually make a decision. Because without getting to the decision maker, it's a really
mm.
somebody has to say yes to spend the money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anyone else? I thought I saw another person come off mute. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Jen.
so one of the things that we found out, or I found out particularly, we mostly deal with executives, mostly tech executives, and originally we were trying to target or my executive coaching to the manager. And what we
Mm,
found was that what you really want to do is, or what has been successful for us has been to target the manager that has a manager that is a middle manager that has a manager that's not performing or is having a difficult time. So we have a tendency, so the end user is usually a first line manager, but our target is the middle manager, because once you can convince them, we can help you to go fix or get this manager that's having some challenges kind of on the road to success, that they usually have the money, so they don't have to go to anyone to get
Yep.
approval. And when we were originally just focusing on that middle manager, if they were interested, they had to go up the chain. So
Yep.
we go right to the person that's making the decision and has the money, and that's a whole lot easier.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And these are the important, and I think we're bringing in other elements that are really important as we're understanding who the different players are. We're also trying to understand who's the final decision maker that's there, and then who has the most influence on the decision maker. So I'll give you an example. I worked for a long time on federal government grants, right? On State Department grants, and I knew who the decision maker was, but I knew who had the most power was she played the role of what would be equivalent to an assistant. And she did more like somewhere between like an assistant and a chief of staff role, but she's the one who had the most influence around the work that I was doing. And so that relationship was really important for me to keep very authentic, to feel clear, to be and all of that, because she ultimately was the one who could really influence a final decision, right? And she's the one who would say, "Oh, Jen's the go-to person for this. Oh, she's the go-to person for this." That in turn allowed me to really, really be in service to a program, not just by executing the work, but also having my voice around shaping what was going on. And so these are super key and important points that everyone's bringing in, because the truth is influence follows through relationships, right? I can put together a beautiful package with all whiz bang things and I can demonstrate many referrals, but at the end of the day, the relationships, more often than not, in my experience and in experiences of some of the coaches I work with, is it goes through those relationships, right? It's that know, like, and trust. It's that relationship. Who talks to who, gets involved in the meeting, who's trusted. These are really, really where their spheres of influences are. So why does this all matter when we're coaches and we're opening up doors, right? And we're talking a lot about business development, how we get our doors. But the truth is, if we're only focused on getting into the C-suite and we're only focused on one particular role at the organization, oftentimes we're missing where our work can really be of service. We're missing the real web that makes decisions. So identifying those champions, identifying who's the gatekeeper, who influences, is always going to help us work smarter. And that this is a way to kind of organize our work and around opening up these doors. And even in cases like as Sue was brought up, someone might come to me. So in my experience, someone will come to me. I had a recent experience where someone came out of the blue. They were a referral from another coach. And so I love that was brought into the room, that they were a referral from another coach. I didn't know this organization at all. I knew the name of it, but I didn't know much about it. I took my time before taking that first meeting to do some research. What's the structure look like there? Who works with who? What blog posts have people written? Where am I seeing photos of them together at different events? I wanted to see the relationships the best I could. So even when someone's coming to me, that due diligence of being able to kind of begin to understand the way things are weaved together, is important to do in that way, because trust still gets built, has to be built, right? Even through referrals. And those of us who have mostly referral only businesses, we know that, right? There's still that trust. You can get a referral, and it takes us to a certain degree, but we have to take it over the line. So, all right. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go into another breakout. Who is excited? I see some excitement. Lindsay, I see your comment there. I'm sure we have much to talk about over a virtual cup of tea or coffee, or maybe something stronger than that. So please erase that from the recording. Just kidding. Okay, let's bring into a different breakout now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break out again into groups of three, and there'll be a group of four if we're over on numbers. And here's what I want everybody to do. You're gonna it'll be a new breakout. It'll be new people. So you want to share the organization that you've selected to focus on. Stacy's gone ahead and dropped in the chat what we're going to do. I want you to start really thinking about who the players are. You want to think about who's the formal sponsor, who's initiating the work, who are the gatekeepers, who's the advocates, who's the decision maker, who's the blockers. And I want you to really share with your group how you identified them. What were signals of their influence, official and unofficial? Now, here's the purpose of this. One is if this is the first time you're thinking about it and you haven't walked into that organization, you're going to have a team with you to help you think about what those steps are, right? If you've already had some experience with this and you're trying to, you're going to be able to share, particularly on this third question, how did you identify them? What were some of the indicators? So this gives us an opportunity to, by the time we come back, hopefully everybody, if has an organization they're trying to get into, or you're in conversation with, and you have some new fresh ideas, and then we'll be sharing those when we come back. Questions? Yeah.
For those, because there's probably several of us that do subcontracting where it's not quite the same.
Yep.
Any thoughts or ideas on how to have that conversation?
Yeah. Are you talking? Let me make sure, Barry, I'm understanding. It's a subcontract where you're working for another company that's already opened the door?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So my question would be to you, and this would have to defer to whatever that arrangement is. Is it an arrangement that once the doors open, you're able to grow work for your work there? Or is it an arrangement with an organization that the way the contract's written is that you deliver on the program for them? Those are two different conversations.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's the first one, then this you can work through this. If it's the latter, you may want to consider choosing a different organization. That's one where it doesn't have that binding that's around it. That's a
Thank
great
you.
question. Yeah. Um, all right. Does everyone feel okay? Prepared? All right. So we're gonna again, I want to give you enough time in this breakout. You'll have about 15-ish minutes, right? So that gives you some time, about 5-ish minutes each or so. Um, does that feel like enough to do this? If it doesn't feel like that, go like this for me and we'll add a few minutes to it. Do you see this rain cloud? This is crazy. Okay, that's pretty wild. I'm going to have to play with these while you're in your breakout groups. I think we're good. Let's give everyone 15 minutes, Stacy, and then we'll come back together. No, we really want to have each group share one or two things out. Again, we're trying to collect the real practical here so that we can really learn from each other. So away you go. Welcome back. Welcome back. How's everyone doing? Good? Do you feel like you had enough time in that breakout? Yes, no, yes. Powerful breakout. Never enough. Thumbs down.
You get talking and you go, where did that 12 minutes go? We're not done yet.
I know, I know. I'm trying to play with the breakouts because I know that they're so valued. So let's hear from a couple of the groups. What surprised you? What I'm most interested in is like what surprised you about how influence showed up? What did you discover a power like was somewhere that you didn't expect? And has there any been shift or change based of this? So we're trying to like get into any of that or yeah. So what surprised you about how influence showed up? Did anyone discover a power? Yeah, Sherry.
Well, one thing that we talked about that I would have liked to explore a little bit more is this idea of giving a workshop and adding a coaching component. So how that is structured and how that you use that as to advocate and to get into an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know that's something I do. I'm not sure where that idea came from. If anyone wanted to share how they use that as a tool to open up doors, that would be wonderful. And I'm happy to share from my perspective too. Terry, I see you're off mute. I'm going to let you go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used that a couple of times and it's been very effective. And I frame it from the perspective of I am not a believer in one and done workshops. I want to make sure that it has a long lasting impact. And because of that, I'm including these coaching sessions as part of that package. And yeah, people have been very receptive to that, and it has led to future coaching engagements.
Yep,
Is
absolutely.
it one for one, like you offer a coaching session for each person, or do you offer X number of sessions per workshop? So if you're doing 30 workshops, I mean 30 attendee workshop, are
Yeah.
you offering 30 coaching sessions in that package?
No, I usually do it for the leader of the group, or I mean, I allow the leader to utilize it how they want to utilize it. So, for example, the last workshop I did was for 50 people. And it was the director brought me in. He was kind of my advocate there. But he had three managers underneath him as well. And so I offered 5 sessions with that 50-person full day workshop, and allowed him to utilize it however he wanted, although I did require that it be no more than 2 people so that I could get at least 2 sessions with each person. He decided to give all 5 to one of his managers. And then after seeing how they worked for him, I guess he said to her that he wished he had kept them for himself. So we're talking about future sessions.
Oh, great. Great.
Yeah.
Terry, like, can I ask a question? Was that a workshop that you were like paid to bring in, or did you offer that workshop pro bono?
No, that was a paid
Got
engagement.
it. Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Now,
Yeah, maybe to build on that, similarly, I've right through a paid workshop, I've added a coaching component onto it, and actually have offered it to everyone in the group of 10 to 30. And not everybody takes me up on it. And then going through the other way, through the back door, I'll offer a pro bono hour-long session and then offer coaching as a way to continue the work. And then sometimes I've hired coaches if it leads to a longer engagement, because I don't want to coach at the different levels. So the different strata. So I'll coach either at the manager or their subordinates and vice versa.
yeah. And then I saw, oh yeah. Yes, Kevin.
Yeah. Yes. So along the same lines for Lindsay was talking about, and Terry, is one of the other things that you can do, which I have found is even more impactful, is before you do the workshop, whether it's paid or pro bono, is to say, as part of the workshop that we're going to do or talk about coaching, work with the manager or the leader and coach them before the session. Say, in order for this session to work as well as possible, I'll need to do a coaching session or coaching sessions with you prior, and then you can bring them in, and they become the seller for the service ahead of time, right? So that I found is a little more impactful than doing the reverse.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Very.
That's really smart, Kevin. Thanks for that tip. 2 things. One is I put a thing in the chat about very often if I do a workshop, a brown bag, something, it seems like the people I connect with deeply connect. Maybe do a little one-on-one coaching during that. They either become my clients or they become somebody in the organization that can refer me. The other thing I want to mention is that if I do a single session with somebody, I don't do a single session. I do 2 sessions. And the reason why is I want to, from a selfish sales perspective, if you will, or maybe a follow up, I want to be sure that it gives them a chance to follow up. But the other is coaching happens over time. So even if I do an hour or 45 minutes or half hour, I want to book another one a week or 2 later to see where they're at, to see, even if I don't get any business, just to be able to bookend that. Thanks.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. One thing that has really been what I've done is what I do often is I'll come and I'll do maybe a lunch and learn, or I do something, and I offer coaching sessions after that to everybody there. They scan a QR code. My experience is about half of them sign up for it. Then it's a roughly about three-quarters of those have a meet and greet with me. I coach half of them, and usually there's a couple clients that come out of that. And I do that also at conferences and in different spaces because it kind of all kind of comes back around in the end. And I love it because especially if it's somewhere I feel like can really be of service to a group, to a company, it feels really, really aligned to do that in that
Okay.
way. Yeah.
So you're doing pro bono coaching for those who sign up and then try to
Yeah.
for one session and then you try to convert them into a client.
I mean, I kind of have and I'm happy to talk offline a little bit about some of the things that I've done. And it's less about really trying to convert. It's really more if it's a company that I really feel like I can be of service to, then
Hmm.
I offer, gifted coaching sessions. And
Mm.
usually, not everybody signs up. It kind of works out because one question someone will say is like, "Oh my gosh, you got a room of 30 people. Do you do 30 coaching?" Usually, as a group of 30 people, I might do 10 sessions. Half of them will end up being clients in the end. But it's really this idea of, I don't know, I've just kind of found that when I'm in that role, that mode of being of service that way, like it's crazy, or they refer me to someone else. It kind of just energetically, it keeps kind of that. We all know that so much of this is that energy flow, right? Which,
Right.
I'm always like, oh my God, Jen, is that a little too woo woo? But actually, it's kind of truth, right? When we're in that, in that mode. Yeah. I'm looking at time. I was wondering if there were any other insights from the breakouts.
Uh,
Uh,
well, well, before we move to that, I just wanted to say something about giving a lot of free sessions. I don't give free sessions. So that's just another perspective
yeah.
because I see myself as a professional. I'm making a living at this. And hopefully when they're working with me, they're getting some pretty good value from this. I've spent oodles of money on training for many, many years in education. So I do not give free sessions. So I
Yeah.
just
And
want to say that.
so I love that you said that because I too never give free sessions. I never believe in like using the language around free. I often or I don't actually use pro bono either. I kind of either gift sessions or I make it part of the process. And again, like everything else we're talking about, it's super intentional around around that. So I agree with you around even the language of that, right? Complimentary, pro bono, free. I mean, I run a business where it doesn't matter if someone's about to pay me $30,000, I still coach them once before I do that. Because it's also an integrity of my work, right? We all know that it's an energetic flow when we're working with someone. So thank you, Sue, for saying that around free. Were there any other insights in your breakout groups that you wanted to bring into the larger group? Now I know this isn't a quiet group.
I'll add one more then. We talked, Barry and I coach for UCLA in their MBA program.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that we talked about is maybe that be a duplicative effort at other business schools
Mm.
that might offer coaching to their MBA students or fully employed MBA students. So I think if you could work with fully employed MBA students, um, you can actually work with them while they're in school, and then after they finish school, they go back to their company, and they might then want to continue coaching. So it's a nice um, stream of income for a couple years, and then it could turn into something long term
Yeah, thank you,
for a
Sherry.
bigger payout.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And big parts of that is really around thinking about your whole pipeline. You're right. You're right. Um, this is wonderful. Anyone else want to share? And from any of the insights, something that you learned that would be great to share with the rest of the group around the power and the power structures.
I just wanted to say that the most helpful thing I learned was expanding my list of gatekeepers. I think in my head, I was like, oh, I gotta just find the person with the money, but that's not always the best way. So this kind of helps me realize I can build relationships with multiple people within an organization. It's not just like I gotta find the needle in the haystack and that's it. If I don't find it, I'm not gonna get the contract. So just help me kind of think of it in a more expanded way. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 And I think most if I really start thinking about most of the organizations I've worked with the last couple of years, it's never been the CEO who's brought me in first, right? It's never been even the CFO. It's actually been somebody at a different place that was close enough to the work to say, like, this is what I need. So, um, so as we start to transition kind of into the end of our time together, let's all, you can drop this in the chat or you can come off mute. What's one shift? It can be big or small that you're taking away from our time together today. I know. Oh, go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, I'm not, oh, I guess it's a shift or just an awareness of just really as I go into any organization, really look at it as a clean open slate and just be aware of who you're meeting with and what where that can take you and just be open to it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sort of that openness. Yeah. That oh, I'm seeing some great ones in the chat here too. That, oh, they're moving so fast. And so I'm sure everyone can see this chat. Understanding the challenges of the organization/group. We're not alone in sales into organizations. Barry, can you speak to that one a little bit more? Do you mean we're not alone as a group?
Uh, yes, and even if we're by ourselves, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing my own thing by myself, whether
Mm,
I need other people, because a couple people mentioned sometimes you need more coaches. You can always go to other coaches, but I'm just saying that somehow sales is big and scary sometimes, and in organizations, I said this earlier, it's like really tough. Call
mhm,
another person, bring somebody else in. Like I'm bringing a little different Ross in a couple
mhm,
week times, but bring somebody with you. You don't have to do it all alone, is what I'm really saying. And
mm.
I'm talking on the sales side specifically, but even if you need more people, you can find other coaches to help. That's not a problem. Does that make kind of sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. Um, I like Lindsay's leave no stone unturned, right? I don't know about you, but there was a point when I could get discouraged at my first like non-response or something, but actually it requires. And then the thing I'm really taking are those words that we were saying in the beginning. People talked about around that question around court, getting in, how does it feel? And there was intentionality and there was spaciousness and there was calm and there are these different words because we all know that those things are part of what make us like I always say is magical as coaches. So, um, are there any final thoughts or comments that people have to bring into the room before we start winding down with all the like housekeeping at the end? Anything else that came up that didn't fit into one of these breakouts or conversations? No? Feeling good? Everyone's like, it's Friday. Thumbs up.
I
Okay.
have I do have a thought, and then we've been
Yeah, of
talking about
course.
the corporation, the organizations. There's another way to get in. I have not done this, so I can't tell you if it works. Maybe you can or somebody can. But there are professional organizations that people and companies go to. There's SHRM and there's PERM and there's OD and there's other things. Has anybody had, or do you want to say anything? Has anybody had any success of networking through those places, those industry places, if you will, or industry workshops or whatever, to get up to the door open? I just know that's a possibility. I just don't know if it works or how well it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Does anyone here have any experience with that, whether you've met, but yeah. So,
Yeah, so Barry, I've had that experience. So two things. One, I'd say my experience has said the large conferences, of HR type of people, organizational development, I avoid those like the plague, right? They're always interesting, but there's never any clients there. So you spend a lot of time and money, you make some good contacts, maybe to do partnering, but there's never any work there. What I have found, in fact, I did this in Pasadena a couple of years ago, is there was a local chapter of HR directors that had just a local chapter. And I think there were like 150 of them in the room. And they wanted me to do a leadership workshop. And I did that. And two of the cities, actually brought me in and I did leadership programs for them. So my recommendation is find the local places, right, rather than the larger places. And maybe you can, capture some work just like I was able to do.
Yeah, that's actually my same experience. Because again, coming back to even what we looked at today, that's a group of HR professionals, which sometimes are not, more often than not, for me in my work, is not the one who brought me in that are there. So thank you for that. But what I do think, Barry, is how, and this might be just to offer to the group, is I look for places and spaces to be where the people that I can be best of service to can I go to those associations. So I actually go to a number of different places where people represent the companies that I think I could really be of service to, or they're in spirit spheres like that. So I think the act of participating is different than and then choosing. Yeah.
A little bit less about the target, maybe, and I'm more focused on the company or who you want to work with, type thing.
Yeah, or in the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, by comparison. Super. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for showing up today. I hope you found it very fruitful. I always love this space that we enter into, monthly, although we won't be meeting next month. Our next meeting will be in August. Other than that, I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and I think we're complete.